Yeah.
Hello, everyone, hello.
Hello, hello.
Welcome,
Happy
welcome to,
Thursday.
happy Thursday. Welcome to True Cereal. Today is an interesting one because I'm going to test Claire's knowledge on what makes a serial killer.
Claire knowledge serial killer. This could go bad. It's not exactly my thing. I'm a little nervous here, Jay. You got something up your sleeve?
So, if you followed us on Monday, we talked about Catherine Knight and her craziness there. And so tonight, I figured, we would talk a little bit, just a little bit on her, but then I wanted to um, just find out just how deep Claire's knowledge on serial killers goes.
It's like I don't know. Okay.
But before we get into all of that, next week is supposed to be the serial killer roundtable.
hmm
And if anybody wants on it, let me know now, or sometime during the show. Tweet me out if you got me on TikTok or Twitter, or you can email me if you want to be part of that show. Let me know, and I'll get you set up. I know there's a couple
hmm
people were interested in wanting to join. Let me know, and I'll get that set
hmm
up because next week it's all about. I want to get a roundtable and talk serial killers. Who's everybody's favorite serial killers. And when I say favorite, it's not that I mean like, ooh, they're awesome. It's more like, who do you like to deep dive into? Who do you like to talk about?
Yeah.
That type of
Like
thing.
the fascination, the intrigue.
Yeah,
Like, what
yeah,
is your level of intrigue with this
yeah.
guy or woman? Yeah.
Um, Davros says it's Friday. It's not Friday. You're just in the future.
They're in the upside down world.
Yeah.
Yes, right? I do. Okay.
So,
So,
Catherine
I don't
Knight.
know.
Let's cover her just a little bit. Um,
Okay.
so we talked about her on Monday.
Mm-hmm.
And she's not a serial killer, but she was. She could have been. With her
Well,
personality and what she did, she easily could have become a serial killer.
I was thinking that the whole time I was reading on her, Jay, all those relationships she's had where she's hitting people with frying pans and beating up people, and any of those people could have ended up being a victim. It's only like a stroke of luck that it didn't go farther, I think.
Yeah,
You
it
know.
definitely was. I mean, both the Davids and we got the one John. She killed the one John, but the other John, all three of those could have been
Hmm.
victims easily,
Yeah.
just with the way
Mm-hmm.
her personality was. I mean, if you just look what she did to the last John Price, she easily could have done that to either both the Davids in the first relationship. I don't know so much about the first John because with her relationship with the second John at the same time with the first John, it kind of made it. She wasn't really there for the.
Oh, you mean Chillingham?
Yeah, yeah,
Chillington.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Her um.
Sorry.
That's all right. I can't think of the word. Her concentration or her focus.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it would have been with the second John kind of took away from the first one. And yeah, Raven said if she had accidentally killed one early on, that would have triggered something. Absolutely, that's in. If you look at some serial killers, that's what happens with a lot of them is they'll get that first
Mm-hmm.
accidental kill, and that triggers something in their brain and makes them want to do it even more. It's
Well,
happened with quite a few of them.
I think with that killing, the way that she did it, I mean, and not to get graphic, but
Mm.
let's be a little real here. She really enjoyed um the skinning part.
Oh yeah,
Yes, that was her thing. I don't know if she'd go to cannibalism now, because apparently she didn't like the soup. She kind of dumped it all out in the yard.
yeah.
But
The
I mean, it wasn't for her. But yeah, I think she could have got a taste for that skinning. I really do. Yeah.
she definitely the only thing I can say on that one is the fact that she uh, took the pills afterwards
Mm-hmm.
after it happened, kind of made it like she regretted what she did.
I think that was all set up. I think that was a
But
cunning plan. She had talked about that all along.
yeah, I
That,
mean,
that
yeah,
that's how she would get away
she
with
would
it.
have
She
a get
said,
away
"I
with
will
it.
get
Yeah,
away with it." Yeah.
but I think if she wanted to do more than just Price, I don't think she would have went that way with it. So, but yeah, always grateful is in the same mindset. I do feel that she had the mindset of a serial killer, and yeah,
Hmm.
and we're gonna get into that tonight on what the mindset on what makes a serial killer and whatnot.
I wonder if I know just by instinct, because I wasn't allowed to study. And I don't,
But
I admit that although I'm fascinated with certain cases, I don't really know much about the psychology of a serial killer, only
hmm
what comes to me as common sense. So we'll see how close I am without making too much of an idiot of myself, hopefully. I'm really enjoying your sea of blue here. It's like, okay, so everybody who comes in, we're going to make the next one blue. If somebody comes in that's not blue,
yeah, we'll see what happens.
it's like it's so pretty. It's so calming. I feel the safest I've ever felt on a stream in my whole 9-month career or whatever it is.
So let me ask you this first question: serial killers born or made?
Is this my personal
Yeah.
opinion on it,
What do you think?
or
Do you think serial killers are born, or do you think they are made?
catch 22? That's what I say. Because here is my bare, educated opinion on it. You have to be born with the inclination to go there, in a way. For other words, for environment to trip you that way, because you could put two people in the same environment, a horrendous environment
hmm
where they are tortured, beaten, all these other things. They won't both become serial killers, will they? Only one of them will. So to me, that would mean that there is something born in you. There's something already there. There's something in the way that you think that's going to allow you to cross that boundary, to cross that barrier. They can't shove you across the barrier to kill somebody. You got to go willingly. It's your hands, it's your feet, it's your mind. I think it's two. It's a catch 22. It's both. There has to be something there to get you there. Yes, I think environment has a lot to do with it. Yes, most serial killers, from what I have read in the cases that I have looked into, and what I have, all the ones that you have followed that I have seen on your channel and talked to you about, I would say environment does play a lot. There's some psychological damage that's there, but I'd say once the science gets better, we're going to find there's a key element missing there. There's something going on with the frontal lobe. There's something going on with the cortex. There's something in empathy, the same thing that what makes a narcissist, what
hmm
makes a serial killer, what makes a difference between a regular narcissist and a malignant narcissist, the kind that just thinks all about themselves, or the kind that thinks all about themselves to the point that they like to damage other people while they do it. Like I think it's both. There, final
Okay.
answer.
So, going back to the symposium that we were talking about last week, according to the symposium, the attendees agreed that there is no single identifiable cause or factor that leads to the development of a serial killer. Rather, there are multitude of factors that contribute to their development. The most significant factor is a serial killer's personal decision in choosing to pursue their crimes.
Bingo. Yes. One for the bear. Oh, you
Yeah.
tried, Jay. You tried.
No, well, see, that's the thing. For the longest time, it was really heatedly debated whether a serial killer was made or they were born that way, and
Hmm.
the general consensus now is they are made. Um,
Yeah.
Before, it was that they were born that way. There was a genetic gene that would create a serial killer, and they found out that that's not true.
Well,
There
yeah,
is
but
no genetic template for a serial killer.
no, but there are genetic DNA issues that come into play where you lack complete empathy. There are
hmm
disorders where you cannot feel for other individuals. Do they make these people more prone to be serial killers? Probably,
No.
because
Here's the thing.
maybe.
No.
Oh, I mean, if you add it with environment, like say you take that person that doesn't really feel for anyone else
hmm
or have any contrite emotion for humans in general, and then put them in a stressful situation, abuse or something terrible happened to them, or even the ones that have rage defect. You know, the people that have rage
Mm-hmm.
defect, right? It's anything to do with the frontal lobe or the cortex. It's got to make them more susceptible to cross that line. I mean, just to go there, just to be able to go there with no remorse and not thinking twice about it.
Well,
You know.
yes and no. Okay, so if we look at people who lack empathy, just because they lack empathy doesn't mean they're going to do something wrong. And I'm not talking
Oh
just
yeah, I know.
just not. I'm not talking just in a serial killer. I'm talking about any type of person. Just because they lack emotion doesn't mean they're going to be violent. Now, does it help in a serial killer if they lack emotion to do what they do? Absolutely. If
Right,
there's no
right.
emotional consequences for them, of course they're going to continue doing what they're doing. Because remember, most serial killers, and like I said, this doesn't pertain to all, but most serial killers are somehow sexually driven. There's something, and we're not talking about
Yes.
sex,
Well,
but
that goes with murder. Yeah, this serial killers,
mhm.
murderers, and passionate murderers in general. Yes, I'd agree with that. Sucketh has a good point too. You know, the twins. You
Yeah,
know, because Catherine was a twin, and one loved her husband, and the other one ate her.
yeah.
That's a good line. That's a good. Thank you to just put it out there that way. That's the best way to do it. But yeah, you know, she didn't like it though, but she did. She
Well,
did.
remember, she says she doesn't remember.
Of course, well, I'm just hoping she does, and that taste is in her mouth for the rest of her life. I'm telling you, that's the karma she deserves. You
Yeah.
know,
So,
give that man some justice.
one of the biggest characteristics and observations that they found during this symposium, as they said,
Mm-hmm.
predisposition to serial killing, much like other violent offenses, is biological, social, and psychological in nature, and is not limited to any specific characteristic or trait.
Hmm.
Um,
There you go.
The development of a serial killer involves a combination of these factors, which exist together in a rare confluence in certain individuals. They have the appropriate biological predisposition, which we were talking about, emotional states and whatnot, molded
Mm-hmm.
by their psychological makeup, which is present at a critical time in their social development. Now,
Mm-hmm.
studies show that if the serial killer behavior does not manifest itself before the age of 15, then more than likely that person will not become a serial killer. Which brings me up to my next question. What
Hmm.
what what do you think are the top things to look for when trying to assess a serial killer? Like, what makes a serial killer? What is it that they look for in their
Oh,
background?
you mean like if you're looking, okay, so say you've got like some troubled individual and they want to just figure out if this is going to be a hot mess or not. You'd look for animal abuse, definitely. You'd
Mm-hmm.
look for disassociate behavior in their peers, not getting along with friends, really hot, passionate relationships that end quickly, like best friend for 2 days and then can't stand the person. You'd look for, hmm, hmm. Uh, some of them are loners. You look for just a willingness to understand and know you're different than everybody else. These people understand very early on, from what I can see, that they're not like everybody else. You know, so I would look for loners, not getting along with their peers, their associates. I'd look for authority disorder. I'd look for people that push against the law, the mark, the authority, anybody that holds any power over them. Um, yeah,
Well,
that's what I would look
well,
for.
you're close.
Well, I'm not fired yet.
No, no. When it comes to the loner part, that is not necessarily true.
No?
No.
Okay.
Um, but having problems with authority usually is true.
Mm-hmm.
So because a lot of if you look at Bundy, Bundy wasn't a loner, but he didn't go out of his way to be alone as a child. So
Mm-hmm.
he preferred to be alone, but he engaged in
Right.
had
Oh, I didn't. Yeah. Well,
things
I
like
didn't
that.
say antisocial. I
Yeah,
said a willing. They know they're different than other people. They're pretty fine with it, as far as I can tell. You know.
yeah, and they don't have issues. So a couple of things to look for when you're
Mm-hmm.
looking into the background to find out to determine the makeup of a serial killer, who to look for when you're trying to track down a serial killer. Obviously, one, we talked about the antisocial behavior. Two, the killing of animals, usually some kind of torture. And if you look at and most, and now this is not, now mind you, this does not fit into the category of every serial killer because not all of them fit the same,
Right.
same mold. So we've got child abuse, we've got loner personalities. Some of them are firebugs. Some of them like to set fire just to destroy things, and it doesn't necessarily have to be fire. Any type of destroying. Most serial killers you'll find will have frontal lobe damage. Somewhere in their early ages, usually before the age of 6 or 7, some kind of trauma to the frontal part of their brain. Let's see. There's child abuse. Some type of abuse, whether it be physical or emotional abuse, is usually the biggest one. That's the one you can usually narrow down. It is the emotional, the child abuse. If you look at Ed Kemper, Clarnell, his mother was a horrible woman. She and a lot of serial killers you'll find out will run the same way. If you look at when we talked about Richard Ramirez, his family, the mom and dad were not the greatest people, but there was environmental factors there with the glue and fumes and stuff that his mom would bring home all over her clothes from working in the shoe factory that could have caused mental problems that way. There are one that they thought for the longest time, but they've kind of pulled back on, but you can still see in some serial killers, is bedwetting. They've determined that it's not significant to serial killers, that they wet the bed, but a lot of them did, but they don't find it as well. There's some great things here in the chat here.
Wait,
No, go ahead.
The wet the bed thing goes right along with the child abuse and stress from earlier, because almost all of those children in growing up with the bed. It's the trauma, it's the psychological stuff. It just makes them.
And that's why they thought for the longest time bedwetting was a part of it, but they determined later that bedwetting isn't necessarily significant to a child abuse victim that would become a serial killer, because where some did, some didn't. So they trying to focus down where they can ballpark it. And like I said, originally bedwetting was, but it's not so much looked for now. We do
because it's part of the other one.
Yeah,
it's kind of included.
Excuse me. Raven says, Raven said the bedwetting is associated with the trauma, not the serial killer tendency.
Exactly. Yeah. That was my point. Yeah, that was my point.
So we do have some people brought up some good things. BTK was a church man.
That's right, which means moral complexity is not always an issue.
John Wayne Gacy was a very likable person. He was the head of the JCs. He was a politician for a little while. Same with Ted. Just look at Bundy. Bundy was extremely charismatic. Ed Gein, not so much a social person. That's where you get your
he
antisocial.
Kept to himself.
Yeah.
Gein's my mark on that. Yeah.
Ed Kemper was a very likable kid, and an adult. I mean, so so not all of them. David Akala, like Raven said, Akala and H.H. Holmes were both very sociable people. So,
well, they can get along with everybody, but they got you have to admit that they all also have one thing in common: a pretty secret life behind the scenes. I mean,
and that's the thing.
Nobody knows what the hell they're doing.
Yeah,
and so duality must be an indicator.
Yeah,
the ability to keep.
Exactly. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, exactly. The duality, the living two different lives.
Yep. That puts me in the category. I don't know.
Student
Although I've never done anything to an animal, so it's
Student did
just
bring up a good point. He said the brain confuses fear for passion too, and a lot of times, yes, in
often,
serial killers,
often.
absolutely. That
I have
goes.
found that. Yeah, go on.
No, go ahead.
I have found that even outside of the other cases that I do a lot of legal cases that involve abuse, and often that is a very uh, problematic issue in dealing with those cases legally because fear and passion cross the lines, and your body has instincts and does things the same way in
Hmm.
response to both of them. So it could be very traumatic for victims in testifying and for prosecutors when they have to do the case because it gets dicey.
Now, one thing we need to remember too is serial killers, as we discussed in last week's show, is they're not limited to any demographic group, any sexual group, any age, race, religion, but the majority of serial killers are sexually motivated, eroticized violence during development. For them, violence and sexual gratification are inexplicably intertwined in their psyche. A lot of sadists, a lot of serial killers are very sadist. Um, the one that comes to mind the most, the toy box killer, where he had created his own workshop, so to speak, where he would create his own sexual torture devices.
Lovely.
Wait till we get into him. He was horrible man, and he had partners, not just one. He had two partners, including his daughter.
Wow.
Yeah. So that one.
Don't yeah. Don't tell me. Don't tell me the name.
Somebody in the chat will pick it up. I can never remember what his name is. I just remember the toy box killer.
We want to wait. I like waiting until the week of the show and then looking because like I don't want to get obsessed with it for weeks. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds very intriguing to me. Like
the toolbox killers, where they ran around in the van and with the toolbox full of torture instruments. That one is another where they took sadism for sexual pleasure. That one is interesting because they actually have a recording of the last girl that they tortured. They found the actual, because they would audio tape it, and they actually have the last, the girl. I don't know if you can find it. You can find the transcripts, but I don't know if you can find the audio for it. And it is extremely disturbing to listen to if you don't have the stomach to listen to that.
Well, once I get a name, then I can go,
Yeah, they said that the toolbox killer, the toy box killers, I can never remember their names. I just remember the toolbox and the toy box.
Yeah. I have written it down.
Yeah. The Candyman too. He was
Oh.
the Candyman. There's an example of someone who was extremely personable, especially with kids. He actually grew up, and at his family's candy shop, making candy for kids, and extremely personable, extremely likable guy. People, kids and adults would love to come to his shop because he would entertain them and things like that. So, but on the other hand, we talk about the sociable ones. Let's talk about the anti-sociable ones. Dahmer was not a sociable person.
Nope.
You
But he was liked. He wasn't sociable.
Yep,
but everybody had really nice
Yep.
things. And this is what got me about it. That he wasn't sociable or outgoing, but everybody just assumed he was so damn wonderful. I mean, he took care of a little elderly couple. Like, he was very, they had so many nice things to say about him, but they were on the list to get eaten.
Yeah, Dennis Nielsen, the guy that tried to flush all his body parts down the toilet over there in England.
Oh God, he's French. Yeah.
In England, he was not a liked person. It was hard for him to get his victims, because he just wasn't an all-around likable person. Richard Ramirez, nobody liked Richard. Even his friends couldn't stand him just because he was mean. He was cruel.
He was mean. He was a bit of a he was,
not to mention he stunk. He never bathed himself. His teeth were horrible. He was the epitome of one of those antisocial serial killers. He's just not somebody you wanted to be around. The Werewolf of Dusseldorf is another one that was like that. Just to look at that man scared people. So you look at the contrast. You can't the social and antisocial can't necessarily pinpoint a what to look for in a serial killer. Now, but you can narrow that down even farther, and this is something that it's one of those, I can't say unless you study serial killers, because that's not true, because you can pick up on this. But one of the things I found when studying serial killers is the type of crime they do, the type of killing they do, will sometimes lead you to the type of personality they are. So like those that brutally attack, there are exceptions, and mind you, there will be exceptions to every rule here. But the viciousness to the attacks will give you a good indication of their social behavior. Like I said, but the exception, look at Bundy. Bundy was extremely brutal, but he was a very charismatic person. The Boston Strangler, though, he strangled people, and that was his, he was a strangler, but he was very antisocial. So, like I said, so narrowing down what makes a serial killer is extremely hard. It takes years and years of study and psychology and studying these things to understand what is going to make a serial killer, what isn't. So it's extremely hard. That's why somebody off the street can't go, oh, there's 3 bodies. Well, they're this type of killer,
right?
Because there's too much to go on. There's too much. There's so many different things that need to be taken into consideration. The psychopathy, for one, is will determine. I mean, you can't. I don't know how to say this right. I lost my train of thought trying to figure out what I was going to say there.
Okay. So I know there's just so much involved into it. Like, just without even going into it deeply, like I had some of the points, but you can't really, it's just such a combination that there's never going to be a formula, because we're all individuals.
Yeah.
Our brains all different.
Exactly.
We all have different emotional responses to things. There is no mapping until all of that science catches up to where they can pinpoint all of that. They're not going to be able to pinpoint what creates a serial killer. So, but just knowing that all of those things, it does make it quite obvious to me in hearing you talk about it that we don't know, because it could be anybody. That's a little weird. I think that's why you've actually put your thumb on why we're all so fascinated with it.
Because
I don't know about everybody else, but because it can be anybody else, it could be the person next to me, it could be me, it could be my neighbor. That is just intriguing and fascinating. A little scary, I'll admit, but who doesn't like roller coasters and scary rides and horror movies? It's kind of like that. It's like the fascination that gives you a little bit of a skin crawl, so you just got to know more. And how I get rid of that creepy feeling is by finding out the facts. And that way I could put it away and be done with it, But
so
yeah, it's intriguing.
Yeah.
It's
So
very intriguing.
Speaking of that, I did find something on the psychopathy during that symposium I want to read out. So. Dr. Hare and his associates developed the Psychopathy Checklist Revisited and its derivatives, which provide a clinical assessment of the degree of psychopathy of an individual processes. The instruments measure to distinct cluster of personality traits and social deviant behaviors of an individual, which fall into 4 factors: interpersonal, affective, lifestyle, and antisocial. The impersonal traits include glibness, superficial charm, a grandiose sense of self-worth, pathological lying, and manipulation of others. Those are the ones that you brought up, Claire. The affective traits include lack of remorse and or guilt, shallow affect, lack of empathy, and failure to accept responsibility. That's more things that you brought up. The lifestyle behaviors included simulation-seeking behavior, impulsivity, irresponsibility, parasitic orientation, and a lack of realistic life goals. And the antisocial behaviors include poor behavioral controls, early childhood behavioral problems, juvenile delinquency, revocation of conditional release, and criminal versatility. The combination of these individual personality traits, interpersonal styles, and social deviant lifestyles are the framework of psychopathy and can manifest themselves differently in individual psychopaths. Research has demonstrated that in those offenders who are psychopathic, scores vary, ranging from a high degree of psychopathy to some small measure of psychopathy. However, not all violent offenders are psychopaths, and not all psychopaths are violent offenders. If violent offenders are psychopathic, they are able to assault, rape, and murder without concern for legal, moral, or social consequences. This allows them to do what they want whenever they want. So I think that right there really narrows down the mental state in a lot of serial killers.
Right. It does seem like it's very involved, but then some of it just seems like everyone in the chat had the same answers. It does get more intense, but some of it is like common sense. Like they're like us, but they're not like us. It's good. I think that is the uniting factor in everybody that kind of likes this. You can get really into it, all the scientific facts, the psychology and all, but you don't have to go that deep to actually enjoy it and be fascinated by some of the levels of it, because some of it just like, I didn't study. That's the way I didn't study.
Davros brings up something. He said Wall Street buyers are psychopathic.
They have to be. That's
a lot of CEOs, a lot of Wall Street people, they will have the same psychopathic tendencies that a serial killer would have. And it's something that a lot of people know but don't understand. It's the same type of mindset that makes a serial killer makes a CEO. Without
the cutthroat mentality. And they actually call it that in business. So there you go. They call it the cutthroat mentality. In other words, get the job done. Don't worry about the people. Just the bottom line that counts. Go through the cutthroat.
Do whatever.
Don't worry about the people. Do whatever it takes.
Do whatever
to
it
get
takes.
That thing done to make that money. And it's funny that they use that term because it's the serial killer cutthroat. Just never occurred to me before. Like, just thank you, Dom.
It's the alpha male syndrome as another one. Those that believe that they are the best there is. The alpha male type. Those are same psychopathic traits.
It's funny that he brings that up because I am actually in that list of female serial killers. I'm trying to find the docile ones. What I'm finding so far are very dominant women, very like dominant women, like that are actually ruling their roost. I'm looking for the quiet dominant. I want to see some docile ones. I want to see if there's some clever, soft, sneaky serial killers out there.
When it comes to the female serial killers, most of them aren't docile.
Except for Black Widow. I mean, she wasn't docile, but she appeared on the outside to be. Her killings were, oh my God. She had control of her killings. Let's just say that. She was a master there. She totally mastered that situation. However, she had to get close to them. Nobody suspected her. She was demure. She was quite sexy, sensual. She led them in. The Black Widow. I'm looking for more of those.
I
want to see.
I said you're not gonna find a whole lot of them. I mean, they do exist, obviously, but most.
Well, that just tells you that women can be quite clever.
Yeah, and most in this,
I'm thinking they just don't get caught, Jay.
Well, then that's the thing. That's what I was going to say. Most female serial killers take a while to get caught because they don't have the same brutality that a male serial killer has. They're more devious. They're more cunning when they do it. Most of them use poison or find some way to make an accident happen, type of thing. So, the female serial killer types are less likely to be caught just because of what they do compared to the male counterparts. They
might get something different out of it too. I think, just the difference between how men and women think. I
Well,
think the
yeah,
planning and everything like that, that they would get a lot more out of that in the long term effect of it than the actual act itself.
yeah.
Well,
From what I understand, um, most female serial killers aren't sexually driven. Um, it's usually
that's what
something
I.
else. It's usually some type of revenge or money issues, things
Mm-hmm.
like that. Now, I haven't studied very many female serial killers, and I haven't looked into them too often. To
Shay
say,
sent me a nice list. I got to send you that list
yeah,
that Shay sent.
yeah,
Yeah.
to know for sure, but from what I understand, I said
Hmm.
I could be wrong.
Well, we're gonna find out together, aren't we? All of us here. We'll take a little adventure and see where we end up with that. So, those you have more questions for me, Jay, or?
Well, yeah. Well, I was gonna go over a couple more things here. So
Mm-hmm.
serial murder crime scenes. Um,
Oh.
is one of these I wanted to talk about because this is an interesting a
Mm-hmm.
conversation to talk about here. When we get this
Mm-hmm.
MVP moms who killed multiple babies are these serial killers? Well, um,
Well,
the,
yes and no. Mm.
I'm not sure what MVP is.
It's Munchausen by proxy, I
Oh,
believe.
okay,
And
Munchausen
it
by
is
proxy.
when you are making the child sick and you're injuring the child for the benefit of yourself to get the attention. It's a psychological disorder, related to depression and other things. You know what? If there are multiple cases, I guess there would be, because there are cases where there have been three or four children, that some of them
Mm-hmm.
even adopt children just to do it. It's just a thing. um I guess anytime there's more than one death caused by the person, it would be a serial killer, and they're different events. But the thing that is making me doubt that it would actually be a serial killer is because when we talk about terms of an event, is the disorder she suffers from the event or not? Is you know what I mean, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if there's a total reason for it and this
Yeah,
is what's going on, are these just byproducts of it? And so would the FBI or the BAU, would they classify the event as as the disorder? Like,
I
I don't know.
I would consider. I would think it would be more the disorder itself than actual making
Mm-hmm.
consider them a serial
Mm-hmm.
killer. Because
Mm-hmm.
Munchausen by proxy is a psychological disorder on the person,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't necessarily intend to kill the child.
Mm-hmm.
It's
They
to
want to injure it, right?
yeah, and it's to get that
Mm-hmm.
look at me
And
type of thing. Like Raven says here, the
right.
goal is not typically to kill children, but to gain attention from the child's illnesses.
Mm-hmm. Right, the
Um,
nurses who do it aren't related. She's right that some people just do it to nurses,
yeah,
to the children, many different children all over, but they don't necessarily kill the child. They're just making them ill. They're not intending to kill them, I think, in
yeah,
this disorder.
and I think
Yeah.
what you're going for, Sucketh, is what they call them, angels of mercy killers.
Yep. Hmm.
Um,
There's plenty of those. That
there
would
are
be a
plenty of
whole.
those.
Oh my God.
Most of your doctors and nurses that are found are
Yeah.
considered angels of mercy killers.
That's
Um,
something I always wanted to look into. What happens to these people that gets them to that place? That they actually cross that line, that think that the world is so horrible and suffering for everybody, and they're going to take it into their own hands, and they got this God thing that they're going to make it better by killing them all.
well,
You know,
and a lot of
it,
those,
it happens
they
a lot. I
yeah,
mean,
they are they don't want to see the victim suffer any longer, is what a lot of them are, and
mhm,
it's not so much that they're doing it the kill for the thrill. What they believe is they're doing the victims justice by ending them sooner than having to deal with
mhm,
what's going to come later because they've seen
mhm,
it, and it's usually you're not going to find a nurse or a doctor that's an angel of mercy who just got to the job. It's usually those who
mhm,
have been in the job for many years and seen horrible things happen to patients, and they don't want to see the newer patients go through the same type of thing that the previous patients is. So they'll do the angel of mercy type death.
mhm. It's just like, when is it an angel of mercy and when is it a doctor of death? Because there's that guy in the UK. They just called him Doctor Death because he just went around killing people for no reason. Yeah,
237
right.
confirmed victims
So
or something like that. Yeah.
yeah. That might be a good justification, of a show to do. Like, when is it an
Mm.
angel? Like, bring up a whole bunch of them. When is it an angel of mercy, and when is it just Doctor of Death syndrome? But yeah, just to have that kind of pair. Both of them have God complexes, though. That's
Mm.
the tying factor that I'm interested in. How'd they get there? How do you get there to think you're all that in a bag of chips and you can do that?
So here's a question for you: do
Hmm.
most serial killers know their victims?
Is this a question for me?
Yep. Question for you: do most
I would say
serial
my
killers?
surface answer, just my bare instinct, as soon as you said it, I wanted to say no, because I would say it's proximity. It could be, some of them go out and look for them, some of them pick a certain type. Most of them are not. I mean, some of them do actually get their family. We know serial killers that are serial killers only from killing the members of their family
Mhm.
one at a time, all this and that. Yes, that exists, but I would say on the majority, no.
Exactly. On
And
the
I
majority, most victims, that's what makes it so hard to catch a serial killer is because they don't know their
Mhm.
victims. A lot of them are victims of opportunity. Um,
Random. Yeah.
random,
Some of them random.
yep, some
Yeah.
of them are just random. Now, we can get into the fact that a lot of serial killers have a type. Um,
Yeah. They will hunt down a specific. There's plenty of them,
mhm,
Son of Sam, all of these ones, Son of Sam, the BTK, they all had specific criteria, a situational or type. Do you know what I mean? Like,
mhm.
the situation had to be right, or the type of person had to be right. Or oh, am I like 2.5 now, Jay? I'm getting excited here. Like, I don't usually do this well on pop quizzes. I
So
know.
the majority of serial murderers, however, are not acquainted with or involved in a consensual relationship with their victims.
That's good.
For the most part, serial murders involve strangers with no visible relationship between the offender and the victim. This distinguishes
Hmm.
a serial murder investigation as a more nebulous undertaking than any other crime. Since the
Hmm.
investigations generally lack an obvious connection between the offender and the victim, investigators have to attempt to discern the motivations behind the murder as a way to narrow the investigative focus.
Well, there you go.
So, and
You have just
that leads
Yeah.
us to this next part. Go ahead, Claire. Sorry.
Well, it was really just a smart ass comment that you just saved relationships all through YouTube. No side eyeing your partner when you're sleeping at night, because chances are they are not the serial killer. So
Yeah.
there we go. Yes.
So,
It's a good thing.
serial murder crime scenes have a bizarre features that may cloud the investigation or motive. The behavior of a serial
Hmm.
murderer at crime scenes may evolve throughout a series of crimes and manifest different interactions between an offender and a victim. It is also
Mm.
extremely difficult to identify a single motivation when there is more than one offender involved in the series. So, at the symposium, the following observations were made. Motive generally may be difficult to determine in a serial murder investigation, and we determine that because not every
Right.
serial killer actually has a motive when they do it,
Hmm.
other than just to kill the person.
Well,
Um,
is death not a motive? I mean,
well, when you talk motive, you're looking for something specific, a specific reason why this person was chosen to be killed.
okay,
And
once you did.
when you go with just to kill that person, that's a that where it is a motive, it is a lack of motive that people understand. Um,
Hmm. Okay.
Unlike
So it's
say someone who kills their partner because they were cheating on them.
right,
They
or you took my job, or you fired me, or something
Yeah,
like that.
you're
So
looking
yeah.
at those different motives. So a serial
Hmm.
murder may have multiple motives for committing the crimes. So they could have either no motive or multiple motives. And it would
So,
make
like,
go ahead.
your shoes don't match, and I don't like the color of your vest. And oh, by
Exact,
the way, you're blonde. Yeah. Bam, on the list. Okay, I get it.
A
So
serial
yeah.
murder, yeah, a serial murderer's motives may evolve both within a single murder as well through a murder of series. So they may start
Wow.
out killing for this reason, but end up killing for a completely different reason to begin with. Like say, um, we'll take Ed Kemper for an example.
Hmm.
When he killed the first two victims, his grandparents, He killed his grandmother because she was forceful woman and told him he couldn't go outside with his 22 anymore and shoot the animals because he was out shooting birds. And she was not an agreeable woman for him. So he walked in and he shot her in the back of the head and then stabbed her twice, 2 or 3 times with a knife. Then when his grandfather came home, he shot him in the back of the head because he didn't want his grandfather to see what he did to his grandmother. Fast forward to where he becomes the co-ed killers. He was killing co-eds to get back at his mother. So his motives for the killings changed between the first 2 to the next 6. So that's what makes that kind of hard to determine.
Like when they're switching it up like that.
Yeah.
I wonder, are they? It's like environment is changing it. It's like something else triggers them in a different way, or are they doing it to be clever? Like I'm gonna have to look at a couple of those. That's ones who switched up. It's a good one.
Even if a motive can be identified, it may not be helpful in identifying the serial murderer. Utilizing investigative resources to discern the motive instead of identifying the offender may derail an investigation. So that happens a lot in serial killers cases where they're trying to find a link between the victims themselves and not trying to discern the motive behind why. And that will derail. That's why you'll get serial killers that'll take longer and longer to be caught. And always grateful. And then there are the ones that there are ones that study their victims. There are ones they'll spend weeks watching, studying, and knowing their every move.
Now, does the study or where you're gathering your information, does it cover the issue that most of those that are studying long term like that, those are very sexually motivated murder serial killers, like the ones that I've seen, the documentaries and things that are presented. Criminal Minds comes to place, a couple of other ones where they had serial killers who would capture the person, keep them kidnapped, keep them in a sexually oppressive and then manner for a long time, and then eventually kill them, or run through a scenario in their head of like the best date they ever had, and then the breakup and murder, like all within 24 hours. But they would watch these victims for weeks ahead of time to know their patterns, to know everything, to know who they were dating, to know what was going on, and then eventually plan the murder, break into their home, and keep them captured. There are many killings this way.
Yeah, those are known as what are known as family annihilator types.
Well, no, the ones I'm speaking of are one-on-one.
Oh, the one-on-ones.
Definitely sexually
motivated. Yep. Okay.
Motivated. Yes, definitely involving wanting to have a relationship with this person just for those hours, whatever, playing something out in their head that doesn't even exist, as if there's some person from their past or something that happened to them, and they do it repeatedly. And I'm trying to it keeps coming up on all this stuff that I watch, so I know there's a real serial killer with this name, and I'm gonna find out who it is.
I can't think of one off the top of my head that has a background like that, and it may have been sensationalized for TV, obviously, because they do that.
Well, because it's TV. Well, of course, but it has.
But I
for
can't.
Everything, there's always a grain of truth. So, I'm going to find them.
But I can't say that doesn't happen. I may not know a specific serial because there's so many.
Well, the watching, like always Crapo brings up, that watching and that stalking, that almost always, even in a regular stalking case, doesn't it always have a bit of a sexual innuendo? It's got a sexual marker there.
Oh yeah,
of some type. So that's why I'm making the correlation, because when they start stalking you, watching you, getting you, it is usually building up on the sexual innuendo of the whole thing.
Let's see. Okay. Regardless of the motive, serial murderers commit their crimes because they want to. The exception to this would be the few killers who suffer severe mental illnesses. You look at we'll take Ramirez. Definitely some type of mental illness there, especially with the frontal lobe damage that he's suffered at a young age. Not to mention the imagery and the stories that were told to him by his uncle. You know, those. It wouldn't be so much that he wanted to as he had to do it, or he didn't or it didn't even cross his mind that he was doing anything wrong. He was just doing it because it was there.
Right. So there wasn't like a pushing need. It was just he just kept.
Yeah,
doing
there
it.
was no need for him to kill. It was just because it was convenient to do at the time, because he was actually looking for things to steal, and you know he'd come in. Oh, well, there's a girl there. I'll kill her and rape her just because she's there,
Right.
type of thing.
And like the last one that we covered that tried to dissolve everybody, it is very sloppily. He really didn't have a need to kill them except for he didn't want to get
Yeah,
caught.
it's
It wasn't a need to commit murder. It was a plan to get money,
yeah.
just so he didn't get caught. And then there's the other ones that want to exercise the demons in their head, the ones that hear voices that tell them to kill.
Those are
Those?
very, very, very few. There are not very many that actually fall into that category. That would
Yeah,
fall.
aren't they the ones that get sensationalized? Like those are the ones that are all over TV.
Yeah, those are the ones that you'll see sensationalized in TV and movie, which they are very, very few and far between. Most of your serial killers are just your guy next door, or your girl next door, your church leaders, your. And don't quote me because I don't want somebody to go, oh, he said all church leaders are serial.
No, we didn't say all anything. We didn't say
Yeah.
all. We didn't say you. We didn't say they. We didn't say them. We're just generalizations.
Generalizing that a lot of your serial killer types are the guy next door types.
Isn't it sad we have to say that, don't
Yeah,
you?
and it's true because people will jump on that and he'd be like, well, he said this, and well, that's not what I said. But
Let's just make the disclaimer here. If you're going to be jumping in my DMs today about that, save yourself. Save yourself the effort. Get the hell out of here with
Now,
that.
I
No. We didn't do it. We didn't do it.
I want to run through a couple of motivations before we sign off, because I know, Claire, you've got a show in about a half hour, so we're gonna wrap this up here real quick. But anger is a motivation that is often displayed by rage and hostility towards a certain subgroup. You have criminal enterprises as a motivation in which the offender benefits from the status or monetary compensation for committing a murder, such as gangs and organized crime. You have the financial gain, which what's his face, the acid bath killer was one of those. Also, black widows, robbery, homicides. Ideology is a motivation to commit murders in order to further the goals and idea of a specific individuals or group. These would include terrorist groups who attack a specific race, gender, or ethnic group. And there are serial killers that target specific racial things on that. The power thrill motivation is the ones that we normally hear about, the power thrill killers, is which the offender feels empowered and or excited when he kills a victim. Those are the ones that usually get sensationalized also. And then you also have psychosis, is a situation in which the offender is suffering from a severe mental illness and killing because of that illness. This may include auditory or visual hallucinations, paranoia, grandiose, or bizarre delusions. Those are the ones that really get sensationalized, but are actually not as prevalent as a lot of people think. And the most serial killers fall under the sexually based motivation driven by sexual needs and the desires of the offender. They may or not be overt sexual contact reflected at the crime scene. So it may not, you may not see a specific motive when you're looking at the crime scene, but it's when you dug deep and you get into like this forensic autopsies and stuff where you start seeing that sexual, oh, they did this with this person, okay, yeah. Like Second the Pickle says, Son of Sam with dark-haired girls.
Right.
Zodiac with couples.
They were both playing out scenes in their heads, you know, like reenactments. You know, they had specific targets for a specific reason of things that were happening in their life, or they thought they wanted in their life.
Another one that falls reminds me that falls in line is the Atlanta child murders. They were all young African American children, with the exception of what they believe may have been 2 or 3 very young adults. But most of them were, prepubescent young black children, male and female. So they believe that was racially motivated, and believe that it was actually an African American gentleman that was the one that actually committed those crimes. Now that's an interesting story to get into at some point too, is the Atlanta child murders, because the gentleman they have in custody and charged and sentenced, there's a lot of people, including the governor, that don't believe he's the one that did it. So.
Well, there you go.
But yeah, apparently, Claire, you would know a lot more about serial killers than you thought you did.
So instinctively, I could be a serial killer. There you go. No, actually, I'm making light of it, but actually, I guess just because I like it. I don't know, because I'm interested in it. But I don't delve like you do in the psychological part about it. But I guess it just from reading so much of what they do, you just gather it all in. It just proves that, see, when I tell you I'm sitting somewhere reading all this stuff, I am. I really am. But,
so to wrap this up, when we look at serial killers, we look for certain things. We look for, some of them are antisocial disorders, like you said. 2, frontal lobe damage. 3, we look for animal abuse as a young child. We look for sexual or emotional abuse as a child. A lot, and this is something we didn't even bring up, a lot of serial killers spent time in one branch of the military and either served honorably or was dishonorably discharged. But a lot of them actually served some time in times, not necessarily just military law enforcement. The Golden State Killer was a cop. So they put themselves in positions of authority and positions of power. You want to look for firebugs. Firebugs can be an indication of serial killers. And not so much used anymore, but still has its weight a little bit, is bedwetting too. Like I said, they don't normally count that anymore because of how often children suffer from wetting the bed that didn't turn out to be serial killers, so it's not indication. And even the arson thing, not, a lot of serial killers will have played with fire, but a lot of those that, when you look at those that played with fire, usually just turned out to be arsonists and not serial killers. So lots of things to look into. It's great. Yes, Sucketh. There was a real estate agent in where was that? Shay sent me the thing about the gentleman that was targeting homeless people. I thought it was Florida, in South Florida, but Shay said they sent it to you too. Do you remember that one?
She did.
So, before we wrap this up, if there's anybody in the chat that wants to join me next week and talk about serial killers, let me know. So I can get you, either message me, let me know now, message me on Twitter, or email me, or hit me up. I know Shay got a hold of me on TikTok. You can do that too. Let me know, so I can get that set up, and I would love to talk with anybody that wants to come on. Sucketh, always grateful. Shay, definitely 100% student.
And anyone who's like thinking that it's really, really complicated, you can actually attend on a panel with your cell phone, as long as you have internet access. StreamYards is pretty easy. You just need a photo from, if you don't want to use live camera with your face, you need a photo from your phone to add to a StreamYard account, and you only need an email to do that, and everything's private. Nobody sees anything. You don't have to worry about security or anything like that. You do it right with your own phone, using the camera and microphone from your phone. I did that for months before I started my channel. So,
and Davros, if you're still listening, we'd love to have you on too. Because we want to talk, we want to get everybody's input here on when we do this roundtable, because we want to talk serial killers. I want to find out what fascinates you about it, why'd you get into it, things like that. So, Sucketh, I am tempting you to join us.
Yes. You should. You
So,
should. Yeah.
like I said, student, always grateful. Shay, Davros, anybody else that's been here that wants to join, let me know. And Claire could probably throw it out there some more because she's got a wider net than me.
Do I now? You've been. No, I don't really think so, but I'll try. I will put it out there on Twitter for you, and I will put it in the Discord, everybody. And anybody who's nervous about it, if you want to practice on StreamYards, hit me up. I'll do little one-on-ones in a private talk room for you, so you're not nervous. But it would be fun, especially if you like this. There's not that many people who like to sit around and talk about these crazy ass guys, and women, and so when we have our tribe, we might as well celebrate it,
Yeah, might as well. So,
yeah.
So thank you, Claire, for joining me this week. You got to get going because you got your show at 8.
Yeah, well, I'm not rushing. I'm ready for 8. Like I wanted to do this especially because that was fun. So what you got to tell me now? Do I get a grade? I mean, you're going to give me a test.
I will give you, I would say, a B+.
Only a B? What? Okay, because I got that one only half right.
B+, A-. I would give you that.
I'll take the. Yeah, I think I deserve the A-.
We'll give you the A-.
Aren't you feeling sorry for all my professors now? Because I was like that.
So my next quiz will be: can you name that serial killer?
Oh God, yeah, I'm going to get an F on that one because I'm really bad with names. I mean, I barely remember the names and the people in my cases. Why do you think I have 130 pages of notes?
The thing with me is a lot of times I don't remember the names. I remember the monikers. Like I said, with the Toolbox Killer and Toolbox Killers and the Toy Box Killer and the Candyman and the Wolf of Dusseldorf. But I don't always remember the names. Thank you. Like I said, once again, everybody, thank you. Join me and Claire again on Monday over on her channel as we talk whatever we're talking about this week. We're not sure yet.
We're going to go over quite a few of the open cases. We're pulling together the information, but the open cases are Amber Heard and Johnny Depp. They are Marilyn Manson. They are Danny Masterson. They are Dave Vallow, Lori Dave Vallow and Chad Daybell. And Morphew. The Suzanne Morphew missing, which is that's a really very interested in that case. I'll also look at that other one that we were doing, Lucinda. Like, what's her last name? Lucia. You know who I'm talking about? The girl that they pretty well got her dead to rights with all the evidence. Like, I want to see where they are. But where we left it is it's not going to even go to trial for another year. So I doubt there's anything going on there. She's the one writing to the judge. So we will check up and see if she has had any fancy correspondence going on back and forth, trying to tell this judge that, she's going to do his job better than him. He's pretty good. I figured she's in a mental ward right about now. We'll see.
Raven said something in the chat kind of funny because I said I don't remember names too much. She's like, I said the clown guy and the guy Jay likes, so...
And that's it. Like, that's how I would be saying them too. So I feel you, girl. I definitely. That's it. I'm gonna. If he's serious about testing me on names, Ben, I'm gonna.
I wouldn't do so well on that myself. So
yeah, I was gonna say, is there such a thing? Are you allowed to? If you're the co-host, are you allowed to call out sick? Could I get like a headache? Like right before?
I'm calling out sick.
I'm calling out sick. I can't remember any names. It's not gonna work.
Just so those that want to know, it was John Wayne Gacy and Edmund Kemper. So
there you go. He knew. See, he pulled it out. You show off. All right, you get an A. You get an A. You get definitely the A for that one.
Yeah.
What on that?
Yeah. So on that note, join us Monday as we talk to Claire. Again on Monday.
And Thursday, and then Thursday back here for Roundtable, and then Friday, right, Jay?
Yeah, Friday.
What's Friday?
Well, before I get to Friday, on Wednesday over on Hereticals, we'll be talking in Cults and Conspiracies.
Oh, that's true.
Me and Chris are going to be talking about Paul McCartney. So that one will be interesting. But yes,
I'm going to get up early just to see that.
Just to see that one.
I do not normally get up that early on Wednesdays unless I'm paneling with you,
Mhm.
but I am going to get up to see that,
And
because
then,
that's fascinating.
yeah, Wednesday, not Wednesday. Next Friday is the return of Six Pack, episode 99. So that should be fun. Then the following Wednesday on Cults and Conspiracies, Claire will be joining us again as Chris
Mhm.
walks us through the Raelians. He's talking maybe a 5 or 6 parter, but he's not sure yet. So he does want us to look into it, by the way, Claire.
He does.
Yeah.
He does want us to look into it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll look into that, and I will at some point shoot you that link to their website again. So, and then next Friday, not this Friday, but the following Friday. Yeah, just okay. No episode tomorrow. Next Friday is episode 99. The following Friday will be episode 100 as we look at the Fundy Awards and other stuff and celebrate 100 episodes of Six Pack. So join us over there. Join us.
One of our members of Heretical Six Pack will be having a stream tomorrow morning. Polly Mathic, Jane.
Oh yes.
Yeah, she's doing the awards.
And the See You Next Tuesday Awards.
Yes, we're doing the See You Next Tuesday Awards. I think Jeff is going to be there. I think Godless Goma is going to be there too. And
so
it should be fun.
Join us next week as we hit the round table. Like I said, if you want to join the round table, let me know, let Claire know, and we'll get that set up. And then look for I think Gacy should be next on the videos. So look for that coming soon. John Wayne Gacy, the Killer Clown. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Claire, for joining me once again.
Oh, no, thank you. This is great. I love this. Thank you, everyone.
Until next time on Monday, and we will see you guys later. Have a good day.
Yeah, drink coffee.